Okay, this week we're finishing our discussion on community. I'm going to start with a brief reminder of what we talked about last week, and then we're just going to move through some of the different ideas that have been put out there, some of the different ways to look at communities, also some of the ways that we'll see that different academics, especially Edward Said, has developed entire theories around the way that we interact with other people. And again, these are just theories that are put out there. This is information to get you thinking in a different way. I'm not trying to convince you that this is the way to look at things, but it is a way to go about an academic discussion about community. So as we go through here, reminder, what makes a community? One, usually the community is a small social unit that shares common values. And we talked about last week, communities can determine our motivations, whether we're highly motivated to act within the community or not, whether we're going to act in personal capacity as a community group. It also exposes our biases as a particular group. We've also looked at, I asked you to think about last week, the doctor's communities, and we talked about some of those. So all roads lead back to the doctor within Doctor Who, that we have Time Lord community. So not only the idea of a Time Lord, but also Gallifreyan, people from the planet Gallifrey. Not everyone from Gallifrey was a Time Lord. So not only does he belong to the community of people from Gallifrey, but he belongs to the Time Lord community. He also has his companion community, and there's been quite a lot of those. And sometimes there is some bleed over, and that's why I have the arrow with, I'll just call them friends. And we're going to get to know these three in a little bit more detail over the coming couple of weeks. And then especially as we move into season 7, we will be looking at these three characters in more detail: Madame Vastra, Strax, and Jenny. And although they're generally not seen as companions in the same way as traveling companions, they tend to not go on adventures with him. He often comes to them and has used them in times of trouble, as we'll see. And he does have adventures with him in a kind of different way. And so, again, the line between friend, companion is blurred with this group. And so that's why I put the arrow between the two groups. So when we think about the Doctor, we have different groups that we can put him in. We have different communities that he would belong to. But what we need to think about is a little bit bigger picture now. And this week, we're going to talk about what binds a community together and what doesn't bind a community together. So when we look at communities, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and then I'm actually going to have you do, as a type of homework, one of your own that I'm leading you through. So the first example, if we look at a community, let's look at the African American community. And so I'm giving you here a couple of pictures of Jet magazine. You can see one from the early 1960s when it was started. We see it now, present day, and 2007. But we can see that there's been a change within the community structure. When Jet magazine was launched, there was still a struggle for civil rights, and so it was more of a news magazine. And then as the civil rights movement progressed and things changed a bit, then it's turned more toward an entertainment magazine. So it can help in and of itself to bind the community together. It gives the community a way, generally speaking, to people who read Jet magazine are African Americans. And so it gives information, entertainment information, it gives sports information, it gives different types of information to a specific community. And by having that is geared to a specific community, that helps to bind the community together and give them a sense of communal identity. And so we come back to the idea of identity as well when we're dealing with community. When we're looking at community, there's kind of four broad ideas in psychology and sociology of community. One is membership in the community. So that's the first thing we'll look at. And who are members of the community? African Americans. So this one's pretty straightforward. Second part is the influence as a community. So why is it important that the community has come together? Well, one of the aspects is that the African American community has more power as a group than they would as individuals. They have more political power, more spending power, more earning power than they would as individual voters, for example. So it's important for them to have influence as a community.